Hi, and welcome to All the Woo A to Z. We're your hosts, Suzanne.
And Mychal, and this is season 2. Hello, I'm Mychal, and I have spent the last week shedding emotions that no longer serve me.
And I'm Suzanne, and I have spent the last week reframing reality.
And this is All the Woo.
A to Z.
And as always, we ask you to join us at our table where we share all of our own experiences and understandings on these topics, and at the very least, hope that you are entertained.
And this week is X for X Factor.
X Factor.
So,
Not the show.
No.
Not the show.
And it's not X-rated.
No.
But for the unknown that multiplies effects of things. So it's woo.
It's woo.
What are we drinking?
So today,
Speaking of multiplicity.
True. So X Factor, I was taking it for the pairing in the direction of that undefinable thing that really kind of makes something special, right? And keeping that in mind with wine, I was like, okay, how does this translate with wine? I was like, well, what's the X Factor and what makes a wine good for, a high quality wine for a good majority of people? And I think the main thing that makes a wine actually a good quality would be, or high quality would be balance. It's a balance of all the different things of acidity and freshness and fruit, but also wonderful aromatics and texture to the wine. And there's just all of these things that are going on. And with that, it creates something very special, which is why it's kind of hard to put your finger on, and it's different for every kind of wine because they all have their own personalities. So how does each one shine best? And one wine that's actually known for traditionally being very high quality is a traditional French Chablis, which is a Burgundy. And I do want to clarify for a lot of people, because I know back in the day, there used to be Franzia Chablis and Carlo Rossi Chablis, and that's people's experience with Chablis.
Were those the ones that came in boxes?
Yeah, in large jugs. Yeah. That is not what I am referring to. And that is not a slight on that wine, but that is in fact not what I'm referring to. When I am talking about Chablis, and majority of Chablis is referring to a specific area in France that specializes in Chardonnay. And they're typically very crisp, bright, balanced white wines. Also, you'll notice that there will be a definitive difference in price between the French Chablis versus the other.
I imagine, that's a double-digit difference.
Yeah, there's a significant price difference there. But one of the reasons why, especially sommeliers, love Chablis so much is because it has a tendency to be such a well-balanced wine, and there's such finesse in how it's really kind of indescribable. It has a very distinct personality, and it kind of, makes your mouth water, and it's enjoyable, and it's light. It's
I can testify
things.
to the mouth-watering part. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's all of those things. So I hate to not single out a single wine as being a really good example of the X Factor. But anyway, so what we are having specifically of it being a Chablis is Daniel-Etienne Defaix. And it is a Vignes, which is actually just translates basically to old vines. And this is just their village level Chablis. And so 100% Chardonnay, it's crisp, clean, minerality, all of those kinds of things. And yeah, so that's what we're having today for the X Factor.
So I'm going to say the reason why the X Factor is woo is because it is a little bit like alchemy or magic or something like that. It is the component that is oftentimes hidden or overlooked or mistaken or something like that. And so it has maybe an outsized effect on a situation or circumstances that you would look at it and be like, that shouldn't be that big of a deal. But because of the multiplication effect, because it's an X times, that kind of makes it woo.
Do you have an example? Sorry to put you on the spot.
I do. So I have also spent the past couple of weeks getting back into Kabbalah.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I didn't understand for as much as I have been in places that have the color blue and, the eye everywhere
Yeah.
is the evil eye concept.
Mhm.
And so you mentioned a little bit when we were in sympathetic magic, maybe.
Maybe.
Seems like it would be
Sure, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
But the idea being more of an energetic one in that when you are maybe on social media bragging about your vacation or
Mhm.
whatever, somebody who sees that, it awakens a sense of lack inside them.
Mhm.
And so they inadvertently wish you ill,
Mhm.
not because they don't want you to have it, but because they want it.
Yes.
And so
I mean, a jealousy.
a jealousy,
Yeah,
but a jealousy that is not necessarily, I want your husband and your French villa. I just want
the situation.
the situation.
Mhm.
And so things like that, that it's just, it could be such a small thing that becomes magnified or
Mhm.
multiplies other things going on.
Mhm.
So, you already were feeling kind of fluish,
Mhm.
but then you go and you've got this sort of energetic oppressor
'Kay.
that you're not aware even exists.
Mhm.
And so that actually energetically weakens your immune system.
Mhm.
And so opens you up for,
The illness takes on even more strength.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So those kinds of things, to realize that, some of it is in how we speak or the evil eye, evil speech, all those kinds of things that sound kind of histrionic to probably contemporary Western ears.
Mhm.
But when you look at them energetically, it goes back to, what we were talking about with water,
Mhm.
of the intention that is expressed has an effect.
Yes.
And so, but there are ways that you could be triggering effects that you don't even know.
So something that may feel or seem benign because of culturally it seems fairly
Everybody
insignificant.
does it kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a, not there's no weight put in that culturally for you to really pay attention to, not realizing how much it is actually influencing your experience.
And I think there are people who can, I think there's obviously people who can take hate
Mhm.
or negative emotions, and because they are more committed to the negative action,
Mhm.
that actually feeds them.
Okay.
Obviously, that's not the side that we're playing on.
No, no, no.
So in that case, negativity towards us has more of a debilitating effect if we have those openings,
Because it is
because then it does
it
take energy from
yeah,
us,
because it's the opposite of what we are.
right?
Mhm.
As opposed to negativity being used as a weapon by negativity, just sort of doubles down
Mhm. Mhm.
and multiplies, gets
Yes.
bigger.
Yes. Okay. And we're done. No, just kidding. Just kidding. And that's the X factor. No.
One example, and we're finished.
We're done.
But I think it's also like in relationships where you find that somebody who you have been great friends with for years is actually friends with somebody else,
Mhm.
and then when you get together, that's multiplied with the connections and the closeness and the shared history and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be negative,
Right.
but I think that is one of the examples. And I think another one, as I was talking about, we had evil eye,
Mhm.
but evil speech. And this is, kind of what we do to ourselves
Yeah.
in some ways by not only speaking evil of ourselves, like, I don't mean this, but I'm so stupid or I'm whatever, but
Right.
also, and I used to tell my students this, when you are working on a project,
Mhm.
don't tell anyone. Like I used to say, pretend you're having an affair
Yeah.
with your novel.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
go, don't don't make a big deal about it. You're doing it in the hidden
Yeah.
corners of your lifestyle. But that this has really been borne out as being beneficial because it's in an embryonic state.
Mhm.
And so what I noticed is that if you, let's say somebody has started a novel on Friday
Mhm.
and they had a really great day of writing and they go to a party that night and somebody's like, "How are you doing?" They're like, "Wow, I started my novel." And, "Oh, really? What's it about?" And then
Mhm.
you tell them that and then they give you all this praise and, "Oh my gosh, and I can't wait for the movie and you're going to get such a great deal," and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then when you sit down to face the page the next day, you've already gotten all the accolades
Mhm.
that sort of feed and are the reward in many ways for
Mhm.
people. And so the desire, the impulse to actually do the work is
Mhm.
gone. Like you just shot it.
So, I'm not a writer, but I work the opposite way. So
Mm.
I'll sit with the idea, and we've talked about this in
Mhm.
our
Yeah.
birth episode, how I come up with the idea, and I have the whole idea at once. It's not like
Mhm.
as I'm working on it, I'm
Mhm.
developing it. In my mind, when I come up with it, I have a solid idea, and then I put it into action so I know what my end result is at the end.
Mhm.
So I end up telling people what I'm doing once I've started to put it
Mhm.
into action, and I can see that I have the momentum to finish
Mhm.
that, and I do that intentionally for myself because it makes me finish it.
It's a kind of accountability for you.
Correct,
And
yeah.
I think that there are people who operate that way.
Mhm.
And I have had students who operate that way, but I would say the majority, especially with like a first novel,
Mhm.
because it's such an unknown kind of experience.
Mhm.
So the part where you're sort of murdering yourself is by doing the accepting the accolades before you finish the work.
Mhm.
And so doing that and also speaking, when you're in a group of people and they're like, "Wow, this is so hard," or for anything.
Mhm.
And you're like, "Yeah, anytime you say I can't,
Oh, yeah.
you're totally programming yourself to I can't."
Yeah.
And I think those are things that we just don't know.
Mhm.
And so then when we're in that tough position where we need to be I can,
Mhm.
we have built the muscle of I can't. And so it becomes kind of the X factor of being more of a weakness than we thought.
Yeah.
Kind of like, your ankle was a little wobbly and you get in a circumstance and it just snaps.
Yeah. You and I were discussing this before, which I know is a surprise to everybody here. When we were discussing it, I had mentioned that previously when I had studied with a
Mhm.
school that teaches metaphysics, and part of the training, and I've mentioned on the podcast before, part of that training is training the mind.
Mhm.
And that's actually a large part of the very first step of like your first, I don't know, year, 2 years of practicing is learning how to control your own mind because that's really
Yeah,
uh,
that's the game.
that's the game. And it's one of those things that a lot of people don't even realize that they have control over, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of, I know a lot of people don't like to hear this because, especially if you go to therapy and therapists will tell you, you choose your own emotions. Like how you react to something is your choice. It may not feel like your choice,
Mhm.
but people can have different responses to different things based upon, and you're like,
Mhm.
I don't like that because that doesn't feel like my experience.
And then the whole metaphysical overlay of that is
Yeah.
not only is it your choice, but the whole situation was your decision in order to learn something.
Right. Yeah. Nobody likes to hear that. Not at all. With that, though,
Yes.
in part of the training of the brain is not only concentration exercises and meditation and all these kinds of things, but is watching your language.
Mm.
And because not only what you're thinking and what you're saying, all those things are related, right? So the difference between I have to go take out the trash
Mhm.
versus I get to go take out the trash is a
Mhm.
very different mental experience and
Mhm.
changes or shares your attitude, which you might say, well, you may not be super excited to go take out the trash, granted, but it is that from outer to inner therapy,
Mhm.
right? If I'm telling myself that this is not something that I really hate to do, then I
Right.
won't really hate doing the experience. Then I
Right.
will find something that's joyful in it or something like that, right? And and when you start to watch your language that way, you really start to hear how you speak about yourself or how you reject compliments
Oh my
all the
gosh.
time, right?
All the time.
So people are like, "Oh, I really love your hair today." And you're like, "Oh, thanks. I washed it. I was having a really hard time with it, but then I
Yeah, and
decided
you
to
just
do
completely
this."
negate the energy of the compliment.
Yeah, instead of just saying, "Thank you," and
Mhm.
just
And
take it
just
at that,
taking it.
and just
Yeah.
take it. You don't have to give a compliment back. You don't have to you just receive it. You don't have to give any kind of explanation about what they complimented you on.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's something that I've had to train myself, and I say the word train very intentionally
Mhm.
to stop myself and to just say, "Thank you," and to just leave it at that. And because I would all the time
All the
reject
time. Yes.
compliments.
I can testify to this, y'all.
Yes. But this is even true, and I wouldn't let people hold doors for me, and there's a lot of this. This is deep seated, all right? And this is a whole retraining of my brain and what I'm willing to accept, but also what I'm willing to accept for myself, which has to go with my language that I choose to use. And in our conversation that
Mhm.
you and I were having about this, we were kind of discussing that sometimes you might say self deprecating things because it makes the conversation more interesting. You have
Mhm.
a little quip to go
Yes.
with.
And as we were talking, I was saying even something as seemingly benign as rom-coms
Mhm.
that are, you know, based on people manipulating each other and people tricking each other and just
Mhm.
all of those forms of things that we think of as entertainment.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, okay, how do I figure out how to watch this and keep it contained instead of letting those all of what seems like harmless, but is really sort of roots.
Mhm.
And especially being in this culture where it's already there.
Yeah.
So, every time you've tried to ingratiate yourself with someone, the
Mhm.
fastest way to do it is to discount yourself
Mhm.
and do it with a laugh.
Yeah.
And that way you come off as, approachable and not stuck up and all of those things,
Mhm.
which is a whole other thing about idolatry we can talk about. But that those are that is in fact kind of evil speech
Mhm.
because it is negative energy.
Yeah.
And as a writer,
Makes it hard. Makes it hard to,
the entertainment factor
yes.
of sarcasm, of deprecation, of straight up chaos and all of
Mhm.
that. It's just kind of like, huh.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that I'm a master at this at all, but I concur
Mm.
that me watching the words that I use and making sure that it's not putting myself down in any way, shape, or form or taking on something that's not actually mine, that I don't necessarily get to make all the jokes that necessarily come to mind. I'm
Right,
like, oh
right.
man, I could insert this and I could get a laugh right now. And I have waited in my mind.
Mhm.
I might take a second and be like, I could do this and it would be funny. And then but I've stopped it. I've
Mhm.
put the kibosh on it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be good and like not.
It's like chips, y'all. It's just they're not good for you. You know they're not good for you.
Yeah.
They're so easy and so much fun.
I was like, it's now I seem less funny right now, but yeah, but there was a good one back there.
Yeah.
And so in a way, when I'm able to still make jokes without that, I
Uh-huh.
almost feel more accomplished. It's like a weird little like, I
Yeah.
did good. I feel way more proud of myself.
Yeah. No. And the first night that I was talking about all this, we were on the phone and gentle listener, it was like I was learning how to speak all over again.
Uh-huh.
And the pauses were so long
I know.
as I went for like what I would normally say in a kind of quippy, you
Uh-huh.
know, semi-sarcastic way, and it'd be like,
Nope.
"Nope." And so it was just and at one point she was like, "Do you think you're gonna be able to podcast
Yeah, like,
again?"
can we talk on this subject? Like, are you gonna be able to talk
I
about it?
think you were a little concerned that we would talk on any
That's true. I'm
subject.
like, I don't know. Are you feeling locked up? I don't.
It's like, don't know words. But again, an X factor of just realizing how that little thread and it's not only that, it's the wiring of this is what's funny.
Mhm.
And I remember years ago when I realized the difference between the kinds of humor that I liked. And there was the humor that was kind of mean
Mhm.
and was making fun of someone or something or a situation or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just would get so uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And then there was the humor that was just sort of madcap,
Yeah.
which madcap is one of my favorite words. So really being able to go, no, these are things that I just will not participate in
Mhm.
because it just makes me feel icky.
Yeah, I have noticed over time, like even when I've been a part of a conversation, not even necessarily myself engaging or contributing
Mhm.
to this portion of it, but where a conversation can get judgy or make fun of someone or something like that, that I will step away from it not feeling good.
Mhm.
And it actually takes me like a day or so to just get out of that, even though, because even if I had not participated, like I said, it was like
Mhm.
me just being there was in a way participating in it.
Mhm.
But even so, not going to name the show, but we were talking
Yeah.
about there's some shows, especially right now, that I've noticed that I know are really great shows. And I've tried to watch because everybody talks about how great they are. And not to say that they're not well done or that the people who are in it are not talented or that it's not well written or any of those things.
It's just not your taste.
It's the energy of it
Mhm.
that is kind of relishing in the negative behavior of humans.
It's a train wreck
Yeah.
on purpose.
Yes.
And you're kind of everybody's laughing as the train catches on fire and rolls down the cliff and falls into the ocean and gets eaten by the
Yes.
kraken
Yeah.
and then gets thrown up and, killed by the warriors in Atlantis.
Yes. And I'm not
And
necessarily
then they get resurrected.
no, I'm just not somebody who I'm not looking at it from a standpoint of I'm better than or anything like that. It's
Mm-mm.
just I've noticed that when I start to watch those shows, so just me potentially like the conversation thing,
Mhm.
I will have the same feeling
Mhm.
after I watch the show where I'm just like, ugh, I don't
Mhm.
like that. I don't like
Mhm.
that if I'm finding that entertaining or
Mhm.
I'm looking to that to be entertained.
Mhm.
And it just makes me not feel good.
Mhm.
And so I might even have it in my queue to watch because I already watched an
Right.
episode and, the algorithm's like, you ready to watch the next one? And I'm like, because I'm like, I really feel like I need to be in a particular kind of mood in order to
Uh-huh.
take that in. And then eventually the algorithm notices that I have not clicked on it for a couple of months and eventually takes it off. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm probably not going to watch it again, which is unfortunate because like I said, it's not that it's not well done. It's kind of like there's certain movies that I think are amazing, artistically beautiful as far as, colors, dimension, like so many different
Mhm.
elements to it. But the feeling of the movie is so heavy and so hard to
Mhm.
watch and be a part of that it's like I can watch it the one time and I have so much appreciation for what it is. I cannot watch it again. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that.
I think it's, everything that we put in ourselves
Hmm.
is some sort of food.
Yeah.
And so is it nutritious or is it junk?
Hmm.
And not junk as in value, but junk as in what you benefit from it.
Hmm.
And so when I was in my screenwriting class and watching every just tons and tons and tons of pilot episodes in particular, and watching them for analysis purposes
Hmm.
was one thing, but most of them it was like, I'm
Choosing to turn it
not
on
going to
and watch
watch
it.
the
Yeah.
rest of this because I just know,
Yeah.
like, this is not what I'm trying to create.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't like how it feels.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to feel like that for the rest of my evening.
Yeah. Yeah. If the word icky comes up, then
Yeah, I try not to do that. But yeah, it definitely so speech is very much the same way. Like I've learned how to, like I said, I'm not a master of this.
mhm,
However, I have been practicing it for many, many, many years now
mhm,
of just being careful about simple of I get to versus I have to,
mhm.
right? Is a completely different way of reframing my mind about my experiences.
And this is the last one I will say in terms of evil speech, but that is an X factor, is complaining.
Mm-hmm.
Complaining multiplies your misery
Yeah.
and kind of takes the problem and it makes it the thing you're focusing on. So, what do we know in metaphysics about what you focus on? It's the thing that grows.
Yep.
So,
It's the thing you're watering.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes,
Yeah, I think I
that's giving y'all some things to
think,
check and make sure
yeah,
that you're not multiplying.
yes. Try not to multiply too much. Certain things. Yeah, so we need to choose our next letter.
Survey says,
So our next letter is going to be O.
my gosh. Oh.
Oh.
Ooh.
Ooh. I feel like a minion somehow. I don't know why.
So thank y'all for joining us.
Yes.
And we will see you next time. Or actually, we will talk to you next time.
Yes.
We will feel you in the quantum.
Next time on All the Woo.
A to Z.